Hey guys, so this could have been a real problem if I hadn't come and checked this job out a few days in advance. Now first, if you're new to my channel and haven't watched my videos before, my name's Mike Day. I pour a lot of concrete floors, slabs, stamped concrete, all that kind of stuff. So if you like that stuff, please go down and hit subscribe. If you're a returning visitor, thanks a lot for coming back. So I was hired just to show up and pour and finish the concrete here today. I'm a sub on this job to the guy that did the concrete foundation. There is a 4-foot frost wall around here that you can't see. But when I was told a few days ago, when I get the message like, hey, can you do this floor for me? It's all ready to go. It's ready to pour right now. Concrete's already ordered. And, I don't usually pour concrete floors for this guy. I didn't way in the past, but we had a few issues, so I just stopped pouring for him. But it had been so much time that had gone by that, I figured he'd resolved all his issues. But what I found out, so when I showed up here, if you take a look at that 2x6 pressure treated plate on top of the concrete wall, that wasn't there when I first showed up a few days ago. So the concrete floor was just supposed to match the top of the wall. You can see how the yellow Stego wrap vapor barrier kind of gets wrapped up over the top of the wall. I mean, that's one issue right there. Like, that's a pain in the butt. It's usually all wrinkled up and it's hard to match top of wall when that stuff's wrapped up over the top like that. But anyway, so I got my laser out and I checked the grade on top of the wall, and it was up and down a little bit. It wasn't crazy bad, but it was up and down a little bit. And then I checked, it's supposed to be 4 inches thick, right? So from top of wall to the Stego wrap should be 4 inches thick. But when I started checking around with my laser, there was only like 1.5 inches, 2 inches of concrete in the middle of this thing. So, and if, as you can see, it's got not only the vapor barrier, but there's 2 inches of styrofoam underneath the vapor barrier. So whoever did the prep on this, they showed up, they laid the styrofoam down, they put the vapor barrier down, they taped it, and they never checked the thickness to see if everything was right. Now the first thing I would have done if I had shown up with all that stuff is, number one, I would have got my laser out and checked it. But even if I didn't have a laser, I would have run a string from the top of the wall on one side to the top of the wall on the other side and made sure I had 6 inches of clearance from the string down to the dirt subgrade. And then I lay my 2 inches of styrofoam and I know I have a 4-inch thick concrete floor. I mean, how easy, it can't get any easier than that. That's just pure common sense. So I show up that day and I check it, and I could, as soon as I drove in with the pickup, I didn't have to get out of the truck to know something was messed up. It's just hard to say how messed up it is. So I check it, and sure enough, it's really thin. Like, there's no way we're pouring concrete to the top of the wall. So I call the guy back and I tell him the issue, and he lives actually pretty local. So he went over and checked it, and he confirmed, yep, it is pretty messed up. So this was their solution. Instead of ripping out all the vapor barrier and the styrofoam and regrading it, they would just put down, 1.5 inches of pressure treated sill and raise the floor up 1.5 inches to get us, pretty close to a 3.5 to 4 inch thick concrete floor, which is about what it is right now. So that's like that was the major issue I had here. The access, us having to use a 16-foot chute here, that's not that big a deal. We are using a high range water reducer in the concrete. If the concrete looks a little looser than normal, that's why. It's got a water reducer in it that allows for a lot higher slump without really affecting the strength of the concrete. Now, and also in a floor like this, it's got fiber mesh in it for reinforcement. We're using a 3,500 PSI. That's our regular interior floor mix for this. Like, you don't need wire. You don't really need rebar. The only way you'd need that is if you're driving heavy loads over this, or let's say the sub base wasn't compacted properly and you might worry about it settling or something like that. Then you might want some rebar in it. But when you pour inside a foundation, the floor is locked in. It's not going anywhere. If the sub base is compacted properly, it's not going to settle. It's never going to heave because the house is going to be heated. So, we're going to saw contraction joints in this, expansion contraction joints in it right after we get done power troweling today. So there's really no issue with not having that type of reinforcement in it, and that's a big myth. Everybody always comments on that, and I just gave you the education on it, so now you know. So what I'm doing, I'm in the yellow right there. I've got my laser stick with me. I'm going around and just making sure that the concrete floor is going to be perfectly level instead of just matching the top of the PT. Because what we found out when we were checking the top of the pressure treated sill was it was up and down a little bit, which means the top of the concrete wall was up and down a little bit. And I don't want the concrete floor to be like that. I don't know what they're doing in here for a finished floor. Like I said, we were just hired as a sub. This is our only day here. We're going to be here from, I think we showed up at 6:30 this morning. It'll probably be all power trowel and we'll be done by 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So we're just here for a kind of a short period of time to get the floor done. Now I'm going around and I'm checking every, 10 feet or so, and I'm making what we call wet pads, and my pads are going to be perfectly flat. So at least the floor will be flat moving forward. That'll be one thing that's done right here. Now I don't know, do you guys ever run into issues like that? You guys that do concrete or you do construction where, you're told something is all ready to go and then you show up and it's really kind of messed up and it actually needs to be fixed or something like that before you show up? I'm sure you have, but share that down in the comments if you have, and share kind of what you do. What is your line of construction work? I'll be honest with you, we actually run into that quite a bit. We'll be told something's ready, and it's because the people we're working for are just being updated from whoever they're working for. So we get a text or a call saying, yeah, that job's ready. When can you do it? And I'll be like, well, I got to go check it first. Let me go check it, make sure it is ready. And then I'll call concrete and see when we can get concrete for it. That's basically the response I give. And you'd be surprised how many jobs I show up to where the sub base is just totally messed up. It's either way too low, instead of pouring a 4-inch floor, we might be doing a 6-inch floor, sometimes 7, sometimes 8 inches thick, because the guys doing the grading can't grade the sub base right, or they just throw stuff in there with the excavator and they don't even really rake it around. They just compact it, and it's so out of level that, it's just crazy. I don't know. It just doesn't seem that hard to me. I guess for guys that use a laser every day for work like us, and knowing that we have to be really fussy about what we do because that's what people expect, I would expect the same from if I was hiring a guy to put in a gravel pad for me and I told him I wanted the gravel pad level. Like, I would expect it to be level, at least within a quarter an inch or so, because with the technology we have today with these lasers, it's so easy to check something like that. Now another thing we were kind of restricted on, because the foundation guy that we're working for, he only figured so much concrete for the floor, and when he figures his concrete floor yardage, he figures it like right exact. Like, he doesn't allow for any extra like I do. Like, if I'm figuring a floor this size, this thing was like, I think it was like 26 by 44 or something like that. So if I'm figuring a 4-inch thick concrete floor, I'll figure the yardage and then I'll add an extra yard or two into my estimate just to be safe. Well, this guy doesn't do that. So he didn't want me to order any extra yardage because he didn't have it in his plan. So we're basically pouring this floor hoping that we're not going to run out. We have exactly the amount of yardage that the floor figures at 4 inches, knowing that the subgrade isn't exactly the best. So we got the first truck dumped out, and we were looking at it and we were going, oh man, I don't know. I don't even think we're quite halfway. We still have all this to do. Plus we got those thicker pads in the middle. So we were a little bit skeptical that we were even going to have enough on the second truck. You'll see what happens here later in the video, see if we actually ran out or not. But I'm making a wet pad in the middle. This is how we do our concrete floors. And a lot of times, we just decided to screed this one by hand. A lot of times we'll pull out the power screed and use that too. But we do them both ways. I don't remember why, exactly the reason. We just decided to do this one by hand, but we did. Now the yellow stuff, the Stego wrap, that's a 15 mil vapor barrier, so that's a real vapor barrier versus just putting down 6 mil poly. 6 mil poly, I mean, it works okay, but it's definitely not rated to, control any vapor that might come up through the sub base up through the concrete floor. This stuff basically stops it as long as there's no holes in it and it's put in correctly. Another thing I wasn't sure about on this job that I've never seen before, if you look to the right where the yellow stego wrap is, you can see like that little green pipe going down inside the foundation. That thing went down there like 2 or 3 feet, and there was a bunch of them in here that we just pour the concrete into. I have no idea what those were for. I've never seen that in any of the concrete floors that I've ever poured. I didn't ask. All the guy said was just fill them, but I thought that was just kind of weird to have those just a 4-inch pipes going down into the concrete like that, or down into the ground like that for basically no reason. One thing we like about using that water reducer, you can see how easy that makes moving the concrete around. We use that on every floor we do, every single one. And when, without knowing that, people look at these videos and they're like, well, why are you pouring so wet? It's like, come on people, just listen to the video. I usually explain, if you've listened to my videos, you know. But if you haven't, you're just watching this without the volume on or something like that, and you look at the concrete and you're like, oh man, that's wet. It's really not. If you take the water reducer out of this, that's probably a 3-inch slump or a 4-inch slump, and who's going to pull that stuff around? I mean, that'd be crazy to pull something around that stiff nowadays. It really screeds. You can see Darren's over there on the right. Eric's outside the foundation on the left. You can see how easy that makes screeding. So the second truck has shown up. He's in the driveway. He's mixing up. He's getting ready. And we're just getting this first truck down. It actually goes down pretty fast. Once you get all the concrete spread out, screeding it goes down pretty fast, and bull floating's really fast when you have a slump like this. So we get the second truck backed in. You can see another one of those green pipes here right in this front corner. Anyway, the second truck gets backed in. We tell them to mix up what we want. Again, high range water reducer. And that's, I don't know, that's probably like a 7 slump right there with the high range. We don't usually test it. We've never had to test the concrete. We've never had issues with it pouring like this on these residential jobs. Another thing that makes it move around a little bit easier is pouring on that 15 mil stego vapor. It just kind of slides across that real easy. Yeah, you can see Eric filling that pipe in now. Like, what possible use would that be for? I have no idea. It's not like it's a sonotube on the outside of the foundation that's going down below the frost line that maybe you're going to send a post on or something. I don't know. And again, right now I'm down inside the top of the pressure treated now because the pressure treated sill isn't all exactly the same height. I don't know what they're gonna have to build on it somehow and get it level. I have no idea. That's not my problem. My deal is just getting the concrete floor nice and flat. At least when they do any interior walls, those should set up very easily because the floor is flat, right? So what we're doing now is we're getting almost all this floor space dumped out with the concrete. What we want to do, like, we don't want to stop here, screed this down, and then pour out the rest, and then come to find out the truck runs out, and then we got to call for a balance. We want to get this all poured out all the way down to the very last corner and make sure this guy's got enough concrete, and then we can get it screeded down. Once we know he's got enough, then then we can relax. Until we know that, we'd just be wasting time by stopping right here, getting it screeded, pouring out a little more. He runs out, and then we got a call. Then it's, who knows how long it's going to take for that balance load to get here. So what I'm charging for today, like, I just charge for labor. I'm not buying the concrete. The foundation guy charged the concrete to him, and then I just give him a square foot price for pouring and finishing the concrete today. And that's all talked about in advance. That's all known in advance. So it's like, you know, $3 a square foot or $4 a square foot. I tell him what I charge for labor, and then he agrees, and then we come and do it like we're doing here today. And then, you know, I'll get home tonight, make out an invoice, email it out. We actually get paid in advance for this guy because I tell him in advance what it's going to be, and then he usually leaves a check on the job, and then we pick it up the morning we show up, just so we don't have any issues with getting paid. I mean, the floor itself was a pretty easy floor, honestly. Pouring to, even though we're down inside the pressure treated sill like this and I'm having to wet pad everything, it's still a fairly easy pour for us. Matching the top, you know, if the top of the foundation wall was nice and flat and we could just match top of wall, that's even easier. That means I don't have to go around and check all the edges like what I'm doing right now. So basically this is taking an extra man just to shoot grades today, and 3 guys are pouring the floor. We got him dumped out anyway, and he did have enough concrete. So we got all the way down to the very end, except for one last little tiny piece. Just in case we were high in here, we could pull it into that low piece that we left. And, you know, the concrete driver went up his ladder, looked in the drum and said, yeah, we got plenty. So we didn't have to worry about him running out, which was a relief. Now, if you want to learn how to pour concrete like we do, you can join the Concrete Underground. That's my private training. There's a link for that down in the description. If you're trying to do like a garage slab or a shed slab or just a slab on grade type of thing, I do have a course that teaches how to do concrete slabs. That's also down in the description of the video. You just click on that link. And then I got a bunch of training courses in there where I walk you through, you know, basically what we do, the same types of things we do to pour concrete. There's forming in there, there's stamped concrete, there's epoxy coatings in the Concrete Underground. There's all kinds of stuff you can learn in there. Plus you get access to me one-on-one with emailing and stuff like that if you need it. But as it turned out, you know, even with all the issues we had to begin with on this floor, it all turned out good. I left a couple guys here to power trowel this and get it sawed today, and then me and one guy went and checked out some more jobs and set up some more jobs for, you know, the upcoming days ahead, which is a pretty normal thing for us. We'll either pour a floor early in the morning, leave a guy or two, and then you know, we'll go get other stuff ready, or we'll pour a floor like this and then we'll go pour something else, so we'll get 2 pours in on the day. But that's kind of what we do every single day, is we're pouring concrete like this. So let me know down in the comments if you got any questions. If you need to reach out, you know, there's an email down there too. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
Anything, you just need a shovel full. Looks pretty good though. Yeah. Yeah.
That little bit.